All right, what is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode podcast weekly real estate tip. And today I'm here to break down how to close one plus homes quickly inside your real estate business and consistently. So it's kind of twofold: how to get you to closing one plus homes each and every single month consistently, but then also what is the quickest way to get you into this position. And the reason why it's so important to get us into the one plus homes consistently every single month is, look, I've found through my almost 21 years of experience of just my own personal experience, becoming 30 top realtor in the United States, but then also working with so many other agents, mentoring, coaching, training so many other agents, that if you can learn how to get to one home consistently every single month, it then is that much easier to get yourself to a point where you're popping 2 deals, 3 deals, 4 deals, 10 deals, however big that you want to scale this thing, because the foundational items that you have to have in place, the foundations, the processes, the schedule, all of those things that you have to have in place to get you to one plus homes weekly allows you then to, again, quickly go from one home to two home to three home. It's like I'll have agents that I'm working with, agent partners or teammates that'll come to me and be like, hey, Josh, I want to, my target, my goal as an individual agent to get to 4 homes every single month consistently. Let's just call it 48 deals a year or 50 deals a year, whatever that goal is, but to get to one deal every single week consistently. And let's just say they're newer or they're struggling. The conversation I always have with them is like, look, in order to get you to 4 a week, we first got to get you to one a month. Once we get to one a month, then it's that much easier to scale and build to 2 a month, 3 a month, 4 a month, 10 a month, 20 a month, however big that you want to scale this. Because again, we get those foundational items in place. So today I want to do a deep dive into how to get you to one plus homes every single month consistently so you can lay or have in those foundational items. Now, real quick before we jump in, look, if you're a real estate agent, real estate team leader, real estate broker owner, and you're interested in learning more about partnering with me at EXP, where you get 100% full free access to all my coaching, all my support, all my mentorship, along with my business partner, Mike Schroeder, who's the best in the world at YouTube, social media, AI. So you get 2 for 1. So you get all of our coaching, training support, in addition to all the amazing tools, resources, support that EXP provides us. So if you want to learn more about what a partnership would look like or could look like together, there's going to be a link below wherever you're watching or listening to this. It'll be in the show notes or the description. The top link will be a link for you to be able to book 100% confidential, 100% zero pressure Zoom call with me personally. And when I say zero pressure, look, I'm not here to try to recruit you, not here to push you, not here to try to hard say none of that BS. Just want to walk you through, hey, here's what we got going on. Here's the opportunity. Here's what this looks like. Here's all the additional coaching, training, resources, support that we provide you to help you ensure that you crush your real estate goals, answer any questions that you have. And look, at the end of the day, if you think this is a fit for you, great. If not, that's okay too. We can still be friends. You have my word on that. So there's going to be a link below if you'd like to schedule that call with me, and it's going to be with me and you personally. Okay. So let's just jump in here. Again, we're talking about how to get to yourself to the point where you're closing one plus homes every single month consistently. Um, and again, one plus homes, and I already talked about this earlier, so I'm kind of beat this to the death, but I just want to make sure that you understand this. So if your goal and target is, again, because I hear agents all the time that are doing this, like, Josh, my goal is to get to 3 to 4 deals every single month consistently, but they're only closing 5 deals a month, or I'm sorry, 5 deals a year currently. I'm like, okay, our laser focus, at least initially out of the gate. I know the goal is to get you to 2, 3, 4 a month, whatever that is. But the immediate goal is to get them to one a month. This is so key. I can't stress this enough. But there's two things here: consistent, but then the quickest way. I get asked all the time, oh, Josh, man, what's your favorite lead gen source, or what's the best? What's the best? And you go on YouTube, you go on podcasts, you go wherever, you go into Facebook groups, that are designed for, like, the real estate industry. Everybody defines best as differently. It's typically what's best for them, but there's so many, there's 1,000+ ways to create success. And best might mean to you highest conversions. Okay, well, the highest conversion lead source outside of like past client repeat referral business, the highest source that I've ever seen conversion rates is YouTube. By far the highest source I've ever seen organic YouTube creation content that we're creating out there. It's absolutely phenomenal. But here's the downside of that. There's a pro and con to every single lead source, right? Is it takes about 9 to 12 months, usually closer to 12 months of consistently putting week in and week out actions. Your 1 to 2 videos every single week, doing everything right, not making one mistake, which is difficult enough as it is because YouTube's a science all on its own. But then it takes, 9 to 12 months before you start seeing any element of consistent business coming through that. So now if somebody comes to me and says, hey, Josh, man, I'm in a tight spot. I need to start making money within the next 3 months. Okay, well, YouTube isn't the best for that situation. YouTube is a good long-term source, which we're going to talk about here later in this podcast today. But hey, best for your situation might be if you're in a tight spot is we need to get you business right now. So that's going to be more prospecting based strategies. So this is why I kind of did a double combination here with this podcast, say of consistent, 1+ homes every single month consistently, but then also the quickest. What's the fastest, quickest way? Okay, so before we jump into the actual, strategies and whatnot. There's some core things here because again, we want consistency. So I'm going to talk to you about 2 core things, then we'll get into strategies and all of that. So the first thing is you got to make sure that you're tracking your numbers. I know it is the thing that when I talk to realtors, they just go like, like face goes cold, right? It's like the unsexy, unfun thing to talk about. I'll be in a room with 100 real estate agents and I'll ask them, how many of you track your numbers consistently every single day in your business? And maybe 1 or 2 of them answers their hand if they're being upfront and honest, right? So very few do. But again, if you want consistent business, it's the only way to create consistency, to have duplication in your business, to be able to truly scale, to know areas of improvement. So what do you need to track? How do you track? Now you can use Sisu. Sisu's an amazing tracking platform. We actually get it for free here at EXP. If you're at EXP, you can plug into that. But if not, like for most of my career, I've used Google Sheets and I still use a ton of Google Sheets. It's kind of my primary way of tracking inside my own personal business just because it's simple. Now you might be like, oh, Josh, I don't know how to build out Google Sheets, because essentially it's Excel sheets, right? But just inside your Google Drive, which is free. Look, I didn't know either, but I knew the importance of tracking. So I went and watched a YouTube video, figured out in a couple hours how to build the formulas, create them, build them out. But we need to be tracking. This doesn't need to cost money, right? But what do you want to be tracking? Okay, some things that at least for the consistency and again, to develop skill set, the things that you want to track is, okay, number of leads per lead source, and you want to track this separately. So let's just say I'm doing open houses. Then let's just say I'm calling absentee owners. I'm calling probate, right? Okay, I'm going to track each one of those things separately so I know what my conversion rates are, my numbers are for each. You got to know how much energy and effort that is required to close a deal. So then from there, okay, every open house, it's like, hey, I know what my conversion rates are, so I know exactly how many leads that I need to get. So let's just say you got to go out there and do an open house this weekend. It's a super slow weekend for whatever reason. It was just slow, and I didn't get the amount of leads that I need to go out there and get the closings that I need to close. So then maybe next weekend I got to double down, right? It's like, okay, I know with open houses, every single month I need to hit X amount of leads. I know if I'm calling probate, absentee owners, expireds, FSBOs, whatever that source is, I know exactly how many reach outs, how many conversations, how many appointments set, appointment conductions, clients, equates to a closing. So we want to track number of leads per lead source separately. And we want to track everything I'm going to go through here with you right now separately. So separately, then from there, we're going to track number of leads. Then we're going to track number of reach outs because as you guys know, appointments get set on the phone. So we have to follow up with these leads. The average realtor right now follows up with a lead 1.7 times before, they just stop. Well, I'm telling you right now, the average, and again, they still differentiate per lead source. So I'm just going to throw out, averages is 60 reach outs, 6 conversations to 1 appointment set. Right. So it takes more frequency. It takes a lot of, follow-up, fortunes in the follow-up to go out there and capitalize on maximizing conversions. So we want to track, number of leads per lead source, then reach outs, again, separate per lead source. So reach outs, and how I define a reach out is, okay, I picked up the phone and the phone rang. That's a reach out to me, right? Conversation is they picked up the phone. Now I know everybody tracks things differently. Oh, well, if the right person answered the phone, if I actually was able to have a conversation with them, I've heard people, if I have a 2-minute conversation with them, and you can do that. You just got to make sure that you're tracking the same way consistently every single time. For me, I like to keep things super simple. May not make my numbers look pretty, but I like to keep things super simple. So for me, it's, okay, phone rang, that's a reach out, right? Then from there, okay, they picked up the phone. That's a conversation. Okay. Appointment set is I set an appointment with this lead, either for a listing presentation or a buyer consultation. And we know that this is, with intent. Like we're all on the same page. That this is the intent of this meeting is to go through a buyer consultation or listing presentation, right? So that's how I define appointment set. Okay, appointment conduction. They showed up, I showed up, they showed up, and I was able to present my presentation. Client, they're qualified, signed by a broker agreement, or I got a signed listing agreement, right? Closing, obviously that deal closed, got a commission check. So those are the core things I'm tracking per lead source. So number of leads, reach outs, conversations, appointment set, appointment conductions, clients, closings. And look, if you build these out right in your Google Sheets, dude, it takes me like 30 seconds a day to input my data. And then it rolls it up every month, rolls it up year to date, gives me all the percentages. This also allows you to see areas of improvement, right? Because look, you could take a lot of action to go out there and close a deal a month, but then if you want to get to the point where you're closing 2 deals a month, 3 deals a month, 4 deals a month, 5 deals a month, it gets to the point where it's, yeah, we still got to take consistent action, but it really becomes a skill set game, once the action's in place. Quickest way to double, triple, and quadruple your business, isn't to double, quick, or triple or quadruple the amount of reach outs conversations. It's just to get 2, 3, 4 times better at what you're doing. So then now I can start to see, okay, let's just say as an example, your appointment set to conduction rate's 50%, which is industry average. We really want that to be 75% to know that you're doing a great job. Well, it's very easy. There's 4 quick, easy things that are very easy to do to get you from 50% to 75%. So now I'm able to see my numbers and my percentage in between here so I can really start working on skill set. I know, again, it's not the fun, sexy thing to go out there and do, but you won't see any mega top producer consistent over a long period of time that isn't tracking their numbers, right? Okay, so then from there, you got to make sure that you have a detailed dialed in schedule. And I did a video, I think it was maybe last week, about, so you can go reference this podcast after the fact if you want to. But the schedule that I recommend that I personally followed that I put on, and there's always differences as to why somebody wouldn't follow this exact schedule. But look, if you're a full-time real estate agent and you want to get to the point where you're, over time closing 1+ deals a week, so we get you that capacity, that's the schedule I recommend. Well, you're like, well, Josh, I don't want to close 4 deals a month. I want to just get to 1 to 2 a month. Okay, cool. We still want to follow that same schedule, right? Because that's the schedule that will allow you to get up there. The schedule is the same. When I was doing, a deal a week, 2 deals a week, and then kept scaling it from there, my schedule stayed the same. The difference was skill set, and then I started adding leverage, right? So adding, getting really effective and efficient through processes, getting my skill set up, and then eventually adding the right assistants and so forth, so I could focus more of my time on money making activities, but my core schedule stayed the same. So we want to make sure that your schedule's dialed in. And I'll just go through my personal schedule really quickly that I followed the whole time, really until I got to the point where I was completely out of production. I became a full-time, CEO of my real estate company, right? So it was okay, start my workday 7 a.m. every single day. For that first hour, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., was responding to any urgent messages from the night before. Then updating my CRM with any leads that came in the night before that need to be updated, and then prepping for my daily follow-up and or prospecting time. Then 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., dude, pounding the phones, right? Whether your business is inbound or outbound, that's always been my kind of sacred lead follow-up or outbound prospecting time. Then 10 to 10:30, sphere of influence, past clients. 10:30 to noon is, your admin activities. So I call them essential non-money making activities. It's also ordering home inspections, updating clients, all of that stuff, right? Shit that needs to get done inside of our business, but it isn't actually, it's like what we got to do to nurture. If you got 2 deals under contract, is what we got to do to get those 2 deals closed, to service the business that we already have. But it's not taking it from 2 deals to 3 deals to 4 deals. And then noon on, call it pounding the pavement time. So noon on has always been, buyer consultations, listing presentations, showing properties. If I don't have those things going on, it's either more prospecting, more lead gen, or working on systems, process, skill set. So making sure that you got your tracking system in place, and then you got your consistent schedule in place. Okay, so then from there, let's get into, and this is really important, you got to make sure that, because your strategies can pivot over the years. I've been doing this almost 21 years now, well, about 20 and a half years, and my strategies have changed a lot of different times. There's been times where it's the same strategy for 5, 6, 7, 8 years in a row, right? But then there's, market shifts, things shift, things change, so we have to change with it. So the first thing is you got to learn how to play strategic offense, because we want to keep, you getting you to consistent closings, but then make sure they stay consistent. So if all of a sudden you're doing this thing, market gets disrupted, that thing stops, right? Like you got to know how to pivot. So the first thing here, after we got our tracking system in place, We've got our schedule in place, and then the third component here is making sure that we're playing strategic offense. So this is, we got strategic and then we got offense. What do I mean by this? So strategic is breaking down, especially in this market. This is so important. Who has the highest probability of needing your services right now in this market? This is not a market of going after people that want to buy and sell. There's an abundance of people that want to buy and sell. And look, I'm not trying to be, chicken little, sky is falling, but things are going to get worse before they get better with the overall economy, with the overall market. At least the probability is much higher than not that they will. I don't have a crystal ball, but with all this, all the writing on the wall, and I spent a lot of time studying markets, is that things are going to get a lot worse before they get better. I don't know how much worse. I don't. When I say I don't care, of course I care. I hate seeing people in tough times. I don't like being in tough times. So I've been through enough of those in my life and my career. But that's out of my control. There's always going to be massive opportunities though, so then from there, I got to pay attention to, okay, what's going on with the market? Like right now, okay, transaction volume is probably going to stay extremely low for a long time to come because we're in the most unaffordable time to be alive as a US citizen. So there's an abundance of people again that want to buy and sell, but you got about half of, the general public, at least here in the United States, that used to be able to partake in the real estate market, but now because of this unaffordability crisis, that no longer can. And as we lead into 2026, you got big corporate business bankruptcies at a 15-year high. We're seeing mass layoffs, at least in the white collar sectors. 2026, we're probably going to see a hell of a lot more layoffs, especially with the disruption of AI, everything taking place. So transaction volume is probably going to maintain to be super low for some time. So again, a lot of people that want to buy and sell, but we got to really laser focus and laser target right now on those that need to buy and sell. I talk to so many agents right now. They're like, Josh, I'm doing so much lead gen, doing so much lead follow up, but every bunch of tire kickers, nobody's motivated. I'm like, look, you're targeting the wrong people, right? So then from there, so we want to play, that's what I mean by strategic, identifying who has the highest need, the highest probability of needing my services right now. Offense means, especially if you want consistent, immediate business, like you want to start getting to 1+ homes per month, let's just say in the next 3 to 4 months, like we got to play offense, right? You got to do things where you're going after it. You're not waiting for anything to come to you. Now, for like I was just talking ahead of my podcast, that I'll be releasing here in a week or two. One of my good friends who's in Northern California, his name's Albert Garibaldi. He's a top luxury agent. He's been in the industry 27 years. And yeah, this dude is doing insane volume, is an individual luxury agent, doesn't spend any money, but he's been in the business 27 years. He's built the relationships. He has insane amounts of past client repeat referral business coming in. If you play this game right, okay, like eventually you can play defense. But if we need to scale this up and get to this point, if you're not there yet, like now we got to play offense, right? So we're doing things where our fate is in our own hand. Okay, so when I talk about quickest, right? So consistently, we want to be that consistent component, but then we want to do this quickly. So the quickest way to start getting business, new clients, new business is going to be through prospecting based activities, right? So if you want buyers, quickest way I've ever found to buyer business, and you get some seller business out of this too, but by far the quickest way I've ever found to go out there and get buyer business is through open houses. Yeah, they're a pain to go out there and set up and do. They're nice though, because people are coming into you. Conversations are easy. Conversions are easy. Conversions are high. If you're doing open houses right, converting at 10%, 1 out of 10 leads that you're coming in. I've got insane amounts of podcasts and trainings, for free on my YouTube channel or on the podcast, wherever you watch or listen on open houses. So you can go check those and really start honing in, my 6-step process mega open house strategy, where I break all of that down. But like even with your open houses, like we've had to pivot. We're doing open houses a ton right now, but we've had to pivot how we're doing them. Right, we're looking at, okay, again, who has the highest probability of buying and selling this market? I don't know about your market, but my market, because it's so unaffordable, it's the affluent, man. It's upper middle class, the affluent. So we're making sure to do open houses in markets, in price points, in school districts, on the type of properties and the type of neighborhoods and the price points that we know people can buy and want to buy in that are in demand. So our property selection, like my overall steps, when it comes to setup, tour, asking for the appointment, follow up, all that stayed the same. Right? The differential, has been, property selection with their open houses. So if we want to focus on buyers, quickest way I found to get now consistent buyers. And look, dude, even if you're not great at open house, if you're doing one consistent, good, solid open house every single weekend, after 3-4 months, if you're doing all of this right, it's very difficult. Even if you're doing it all right, but you're not great at it, it's still very difficult to not close a deal a month through open houses, right? Okay, so then from there, if we're going after sellers. I know a lot of you love sellers. I love sellers too. I love buyers. I love sellers. I like, just helping families and making commissions. But if we're going to go after sellers, right, hitting the phones or door knocking. But again, when I'm talking about strategic offense, because again, the quickest way to get there is prospecting based business. So if you transplanted me in a new city tomorrow, right? And I had to start from scratch, had no money, had to start from scratch and had to start scaling and scaling fast. I'd be hitting open houses every single weekend. And then I'd be, prospecting Monday through Friday, phone prospecting Monday through Friday. And I'd hit one of these niches because these are the niches that we're seeing that are working best to go out there and get sellers right now. You got expireds, you got FSBOs, always been great, always are great. As you know, they're highly saturated. So we have to be really refined with our process and skill set, to be able to stand out. But it's easy to do that because the vast majority in this industry aren't good at these things. So okay, we can go after expires and fizzles. My personal favorite is areas where there's a lot of opportunity, but have the least amount of competition. I like the least amount of resistance, man. Just how I like to run my business. So okay, probate. Great niche right now, and probably the biggest listing wave niche for that we'll see for the rest of our careers. Yeah, absentee owners. So these are long-term, your investors, right? So short-term vacation rental owners, long-term buy and hold investor owners, at least in a lot of markets. Not all markets may or may not make sense for you in your market. But my market is one where it does make a lot of sense. You got prices coming down, we got rents coming down, we got eviction rates going up. We got whole costs going up between costs of maintenance and labor and taxes and insurance. So, absentee owners, a lot of these investors are like, man, if I want to sell at a close to peak price where this continues to get uglier because we haven't come close to seeing a floor yet on prices or, rents coming down. If they want to get out while they're ahead, like they better get out sooner than later, right? So, can be a great market. Okay, going after people that are going through a divorce. It's a life situation change. Probably they need to sell as they go through this life situation change, very high, right? Because again, we want to go after those that need to buy and sell, not those that want to buy and sell. Or last one that we're seeing get great results right now is 30 day plus lates on their mortgage. So your pre-foreclosures, right? They don't sell. They don't figure this out, they're going to go into foreclosure and lose the home. So there's a lot of urgency there. So again, I'm targeting those that have the highest probability of needing my services. For me, I'm not going to say to not circle prospect in this market. You're just going to have to do a hell of a lot more of it, because you have lesser listings, lesser turnover rate. It's harder to sell listings. There's not as many buyers out there right now. So I want to get really niche down, laser focused on, again, those that have the highest need, because, okay, let's just say I'm circle prospecting, I'm not circle prospecting this market, but let's just say if I was like historically throughout my career, it's pretty much like, 1,000, if you were really good, 1,000 dials, 100 conversations, one listing taken. Right now, today, that might be more like 3,000. I don't know. Right. But okay, with these niches, it's more like 500 dials, 50 conversations, one listing taken. If your process frequency and skill set is really honed in and dialed in, right? So here's what I recommend, right? Is you identify 1 to 2 quick now immediate sources, right? So prospecting. So let's just say it's open houses and then, hitting the phones with one of these niches. Or if you're like, hey, Josh, dude, I don't like to work the weekends, or I don't want to maybe like to work the weekends, but you don't like to do open houses, right? So maybe you're focusing on, I don't know, probates and expireds. Right? So we're going to pick, if we just want to go after sellers and just be focused on that, okay, I recommend to pick probably 2 of those niches, unless you're in a massive market where there's a ton of business to be had and there's more than enough with that niche. Now with probates, which I believe if there was one listing niche that, if you were to ask me, Josh, if there's one listing niche that I should master that's going to have the biggest fruits, for the rest of my career, where they're the biggest ongoing opportunity, it's going to be probates. You got 50% of real estate that's held right now in the United States by baby boomers in the silent generation. Got 150 million single family attached units throughout the United States. So that's 75 million housing units owned by these 2 generations. 70% of families that inherit estates after, they pass away and they inherit those estates, they sell them. They can't keep them, don't want to keep them, whatever the situation is. So we're talking 52 million housing units, just break down on the current math, as it is right now. Maybe that changes for the future, but if we just look at what exists currently, with these percentages, that's 52 million housing units hitting the market over the next, 2.5 decades. So there's going to be, massive opportunity there. But when it comes to a thing like probate, okay, we might be limited. There's only so many people passing away and so many estates that are being, inherited. in your zip code. So it depends on how big your market is, how big the cover territory it is. So you might need to stack a couple of these, right? But my recommendation would be like, okay, two for the immediate. So we can get you to that one plus deal every single month, and scale it from there. But then as a kind of that back end side hustle, I'd recommend to identify one to two that are going to be more inbound based, right? That eventually will replace going out there and doing open house every single weekend, or eventually replace you pounding the phones. And this is going to be in addition to our sphere of influence past clients. That's the one commonality that we all have in common. What I'm talking about here today is with new client acquisition, like new sources, new methods to get new business. Yeah, right. Because if we want to, if our business isn't what we need it to be, and we're just relying on past clients for influence, that's not going to get you where you need to get more new clients. So then you have more past clients for more repeat referral business. Eventually, that will, after 15 years, 10 years of the business, if you do this right, and when I say do it right, provide a brilliant experience, stay in touch with them, throughout the whole entire process, and ongoing afterwards, keeping that relationship alive. Yeah, that repeat referral business starts to get very damn good. But so for right now, though, when we're talking about new client acquisition, if you love the phones, you love open houses. It's like, look, I like open houses a lot. I like the phones a lot. They worked for me. They helped me scale my business. But when I say I liked them, I liked them because it got me to where I wanted to go in a quick time frame. But they were a pain in the ass to do. And especially after like 2 years of grinding those out, like I got to the point where I was like, man, I don't want to do this for 20 years. Go hard at it for 2 years, but eventually I want something that replaces these. So whether it be some type of, social media inbound strategy, YouTube inbound strategy, where now you got people coming to you when it's inbound, right? It's going to be higher conversions. When I say inbound, I'm talking like organic inbound. Now it could be paid as well. Paid is going to be low conversions. Like if you're doing paid Google pay-per-click, paid Facebook ads, those would be low conversions. So you're still having to pound the phone. So that's kind of like doing a phone prospecting source. Like with Google pay-per-click, you're going to convert no higher than you will probates or FISBOs or expireds, right? But if I'm doing some kind of longer term nurture inbound strategy that has a higher conversion rate, like YouTube, like organic Instagram, organic social media, then it eventually allows me to have an off ramp with the prospecting. So like let's just say you get to the point where now you're doing, two, three, four deals every single month from your YouTube channel. And with YouTube, I talked about this earlier, but probably the highest conversion of any lead source I've ever seen, not YouTube paid ads, YouTube organic, creating a YouTube channel, creating great content, for your YouTube channel. If you do this right, again, it's a science. You got to know how to do it. Got to make sure you're getting the content right, the video framework right, the call to actions right, the titling, the thumbnail, the tags, SEO. Like you got to get all of that stuff right. So it's a little bit of a science, but if you do it right, do it consistently. Because look, these people are spending hours with you. Like by the time they reach out, they already know you, like you, trust you. They've already spent hours and hours with you. They already feel like they know you. I know some agents that are 80% conversions. With these, it really just comes down to, can we find you what you're looking for? Right. It becomes that scalable thing. So my recommendation would be to identify, one to two for that kind of now immediate, so we can get you to your one plus homes every single month in the quickest manner possible. But then at the same time, pick at least one thing that you're going to do for that longer term. Now you can wait until you get to the once a month consistently, but to continue this consistently for the lifelong of your career, you know, um, like the prospecting based stuff can burn you out over time, or if you get super sick or something happens, right? Or take a vacation, like the second you stop, those things stop. And then you have businesses you're having to reset over, so if we want to have the, quickest way to get consistent one closings per month, prospecting is going to be there. If we want to maintain consistency long term over time, the kind of longer inbound style sources are going to be what helps sustain that, right? Because we don't burn out nearly as easy from those, or burn out at all from those sources. So I hope that this has been helpful. This is my advice for you for if you want to get to one plus closing every single month. Now I know there's a lot of, little things when it comes to strategy, skill set, how to do each of these things, but this at least gives you the what to do, what to focus on. I've just identified, once we can figure out the what, then we can figure out the how. Like, here's what I'm going to do. Okay, then now with Google, with AI, with all the resources out there, we can figure out the how. So I hope that this has been helpful. Again, if you're interested in learning more about partnering with me at EXP, where you get 100% full free access to all my coaching, all my training, all my mentorship, 100% free to you at no additional cost, along with my business partner, Mike Sherrard, who's the best in the world at social media, AI, YouTube, So you get 2 for 1. You get both of us, all 100% for free. In addition, all the amazing tools, systems, support, amazing comp structures, amazing wealth building opportunities to help you build up your retirement, help you develop an off ramp, inside this career that EXP offers and gives us the ability to go out there and create. So if you want to learn more about a partnership together, there's going to be a link below in the description of the show notes where you can book a 100% confidential, 100% zero pressure Zoom call with me personally, which I highly encourage you to do. Like I said, I'm not going to try to recruit you. I'm not here to push you, pressure you, none of that BS. Just want to walk you through, hey, here's what we got going on. Answer any questions that you have. If you think it's a fit for you, great. If not, that's okay too. We can still be friends. You have my word on that. All right, keep crushing it, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace.